Welcome into the Tech Ed Podcast, live streaming all day today and tomorrow from Rockwell Automation Fair in Chicago, Illinois. We are at McCormick Place. Unbelievable amounts of energy taking place here at Automation Fair. If you are anywhere near Chicago, Illinois and don't have anything going on, come on down. It's actually free to register, and you will see incredible amounts of Industry 4.0, advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, technologies, and the like as you walk through here at Automation Fair. It's absolutely mind-blowing, the technologies that are here. Believe it or not, technologies and solutions from over 100 leading manufacturing technology, automation, software companies on offer here at Automation Fair. And we have been learning all day about these technologies, about the people that are literally driving manufacturing into the future of advanced manufacturing. Our next guest is absolutely no exception to that rule. He is Jeff Kilburn, and Jeff is the president and managing director of EPLAN USA. If you don't know EPLAN, you are going to know them very well by the time we are done with our 30 minutes with Jeff. But first, Jeff, thank you so much for taking some time with us here on the Tech Ed Podcast.
It's my pleasure. It's an honor to be here.
And it's an honor to have you. Absolutely. Our audience might not be completely familiar with the work that you're doing at EPLAN. I know I've learned a little bit about it, but tell us, just to get us going, what is EPLAN? Tell us about your technology, how you fit into the ecosystem.
Yeah, so we're one of the founding members of Rockwell's Digital Partner Program. They established that in 2019. And EPLAN, if you don't know us, and understand if you're in the U.S., you may not have heard of us.
Sure.
We're a powerhouse in Europe.
Okay.
And a leader in our space. And, basically EPLAN is a purpose-built electrical engineering solution, a platform of capabilities built on top of a common data model. And that's where all the strength and all the efficiencies come from.
Interesting.
Yep.
So I want to get into common data model and so on as we dive a little bit deeper into EPLAN. But so if I'm a customer in Europe, obviously more familiarity maybe there than here in the United States. What does that experience look like? Where are we driving value? What am I actually implementing?
Well, in large part, over my career, which is almost entirely in the automation space, we have done drawings.
Sure.
We went from paper and pencil
Yep.
to a screen and a mouse, but it's still a mechanical drawing activity.
Sure.
And then supplemented with data.
Okay.
Generally Excel spreadsheets and
Right.
things like this.
Yeah.
This is how we execute our work.
Absolutely.
And it's almost everywhere. I mean, there are very few exceptions.
Sure.
And about the same time that we did that conversion from paper to CAD, in Europe, EPLAN got started too.
Got it.
But more as a data model.
Okay.
And so the power is really, you design an EPLAN, you don't draw.
Okay.
You never draw an EPLAN. It's about designing, and then drawings like schematics, panel layouts, that all comes at the push of a button, and reports come out.
Okay.
With all the data.
Wow. So,
Yep.
And help me out with that distinction a little bit. I think about, and you're exactly right, all my years in manufacturing, and it was, especially, 25, 30 years ago, the best engineers were like master sketch artists, right? I mean,
Yeah.
They could draw any piece of equipment, they could sketch any process, and then you're exactly right. Well, what's my throughput going to be? What's my yield going to be? What is my cycle time? We'll go to Microsoft Excel and we plug the data in, and that was really, it was cutting edge at the time, right? That was the world of manufacturing and design that we lived in, right?
I introduced CAD to my first company I worked for. I'm
Yeah.
that vintage, let's say.
Yeah.
And we thought it was very powerful, right? The ability to quite easily copy paste.
Sure.
Now with the data, you build things up from standardized, could be circuits, groups of products, circuits with products associated behind them, and all the power becomes the data, really. And it really, the data that, it's not just, our tagline is efficient engineering.
Okay.
For me, that's the nucleus of what we do, but we can provide value from concept all the way through production and maintenance. Because it's a data model.
Okay.
And everyone needs some part of data, whether you're building the panel and you need to know where to drill the holes,
right,
or where to land the wires, or you're interfacing with the customer and trying to understand what that project's going to look like, how much is it going to cost, how
Sure.
big are the items, what's the lead time. All of this comes from a base of engineering. I had a very special experience a few summers ago before COVID, And we were talking with a large integrator of Rockwell, and right next to me was one of their best engineers, and he said, I spend half my time doing quotations.
Yeah.
Why? I have to.
Mm-hmm.
If I put too much material in, don't win the job. If I
Right.
put too little material in, we lose profitability.
Right.
So the very best had to apply themselves even at the quotation stage, and we can help with that.
Got it. And is the application more on the design of manufacturing process? Is that the application, or end use parts, or?
So we talk about an ecosystem of industrial automation, and a large part what we're trying to do is to bring all the stakeholders together on a common product model, a common solution, right? And when you're working with the data model, it's very powerful. The exchange of information through cloud services,
Sure.
from concept quotation stage all the way to maintenance and operation stage is very powerful.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're emailing spreadsheets and bills of material and what version are you on, and
Right.
the time, it's not just the work content, it's the time that it takes to get everybody together and on the same page.
Absolutely. When who among us hasn't had, at least at one time, two engineers working on two different models on the same project, and all of a sudden one gets ahead of the other one, and your versions are out of sync, and all of a sudden somebody's got to go back and try and figure out, all right, what version were you on? What version did I have? What happened in the middle? Tremendous waste of time in terms of...
Exactly. That person's on vacation. We need two other people to weigh in on it. If we can bring all those stakeholders, from the people like Rockwell who make all the products that go into a solution,
Sure.
to the end users who are specifying and planning it, and the OEMs and the machine builders and integrators, there's a lot of stakeholders in automation solution.
For sure.
And if you could make that a frictionless, elegant experience, then there's a lot of value and a lot of time savings.
And who would have ever thought of design and engineering being thought of as an elegant experience? But that's exactly what it sounds like you're doing at EPLAN. Fantastic. You and I were talking as we got ready for the show today, Jeff, that you were a team member at Rockwell Automation for over 25 years. Rockwell, obviously, the power behind Rockwell Automation Fair. Blake Moret, as you know, a prior CEO of Rockwell, chairman and CEO, prior guest here on the Tech Ed podcast, a good supporter of the work that we're doing, and we're, of course, huge fans of Rockwell Automation. As am I. My career didn't quite get started there, but I spent 10 years running a captive shop for Rockwell, so I know the organization really, really well. I'd be interested in as much as a lot of the folks tuning in this week are people that are already implementing Factory Talk, already implementing other solutions from Rockwell. How does EPLAN integrate with some of the software solutions that Rockwell would offer?
Yeah, I would say we've really made a lot of progress, and so I spent 25 years at Rockwell. I implemented an EPLAN solution for a couple of different businesses.
Okay.
And I saw the power, got to know that company and their family, and it was tough to make a transition.
Right.
But what really drove me was, and I truly believe this, we're going to change the market the way we've been doing things for 35 years.
Wow.
And that's how strongly I feel about it, and that's what it took to make the move. And
right.
What I see now is Rockwell really on that journey as well, and they're trying to pull in partners like EPLAN. And so you'll see here at this show, if you stop by in their cloud pavilion, you'll see our implementation of EPLAN and Factory Talk Design Hub. It's our first step, and we have a journey that we're taking together, and we're very excited about that. The other thing you'll see is we've done some really great work in the last year, and maybe even the last 6 months, trying to tie EPLAN into the Emulate 3D software from Rockwell.
Right.
And the time savings, the Emulate 3D team is telling me, weeks and weeks of time savings. And so what you see there is tremendous customer value by the people that know it best.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about what we're doing together with the Rockwell partnership.
Well, I can hear that in your voice. And when you think about, for our listeners who may not be familiar, Emulate 3D, digital twin software, so literally taking it's truly a cyber physical system, right? It's taking what will eventually be or already is a physical manifestation of a manufacturing operation and building that digitally. I first got familiar with Emulate 3D at Automation Fair. I want to say it was right before COVID. And I can't remember if we were, I think it was, again, I won't even say, it was either Atlanta, Houston, or here, one of the three. But I walked into that booth and started chatting with the individual who had that Emulate 3D display. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is the future of manufacturing. I ran advanced manufacturing companies for 20 plus years,
Yep.
and that's where it's going. So when it comes to integrating with a digital twin like Emulate 3D, how does that feel, or what is the work product of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's to do a little bit deep dive because maybe a lot of the North American audience doesn't know a lot yet about EPLAN. So when you try to emulate something, you need to know what is connected to what in the electrical system.
Okay. Yep.
EPLAN provides exactly that.
Got it.
And so what we're doing is we're providing that connection data, and the only other way to do it was a manual process within the Emulate 3D software. So now, if you're using EPLAN and you're designing your electrical control, all the connections,
Right.
you just export that within the Emulate 3D software, and all that comes right into. So it's weeks of manual effort that's avoided, and you can imagine all the human mistakes that get made.
Exactly. Right.
And this is, in large part, it's just another aspect of what EPLAN does as our daily business.
It really is. I mean, weeks and weeks of time, and then the added part of it. Yeah, if you're trying to port this over from one platform to another, what are the mistakes? How do I make all this talk to everything else, and so on? So really, really important value that you're adding. And as I think about the future of manufacturing, right? So in the past, and I was an Industry 3.0 guy, in fact, for a while, maybe not even Industry 3.0, but you think about those days of a PLC and maybe some sensors and some output devices and ladder logic going on in the middle and/or not nor NAND and memory, and kind of understanding what's happening at that level, and I could wrap my brain around that. Well, now we're into this period of time where it's not just those technologies. All of those sensors and devices are becoming smart. They have embedded intelligence. They can make their own decisions. They can communicate with each other without necessarily having to talk through a computer network or a programmable logic controller. So just the complexity of what's happening on manufacturing platforms today versus what it was in the days that I was running some pretty cutting-edge manufacturing operations, really night and day. And it sounds like you kind of almost become the Rosetta Stone, if you will, of the ability for one of those platforms to communicate with whatever we're using to innovate.
I have, there's a lot of analogies I use when I try to educate someone on what is EPLAN, and you think of maybe EPLAN as somewhat of the central nervous system of things.
Sure.
How are the nerves connected to the brain of the control system? That's what we do. We're the map of everything. So, we have a lot of use cases. Think of a maintenance person who is trying to troubleshoot something. The line went down.
Right.
He gets an input from the control system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with some of the integrations we do with Rockwell, you can immediately pull up the schematic in EPLAN and know where that happened. You could even pull up the 3D twin of the cabinet, which is a capability within our platform, to see where in the cabinet that part that didn't turn on.
Got it.
And now, click on that part and pull up its data sheet within the EPLAN platform because the data has been added to it. It's just a powerful, you really, the speed and efficiency you get all the way to the maintenance operation is available because it's a data-driven solution.
So let me ask you another question that just occurred to me as you were going through that explanation, which was fascinating, by the way. I think about technologies like augmented reality, companies like PTC that are here at Automation Fair. Is that the next step to some of this, where you're actually using a HoloLens, sending a maintenance tech out to the floor, using your platform and being able to see that schematic and troubleshoot in real time?
It's not only the next step, it's here.
Is it really?
Today.
Wow.
It used to be we were showcasing something. It's here and live, and we actually use Vuforia to do some augmented reality. Last year we had we have a product called eView, so you can view schematics, you can red line, green line, but you can also do an augmented reality version of a control cabinet.
Oh, cool.
And we had all sorts of people doing this on LinkedIn and other areas where social media and posting, and we put it out there just to get some attention to say, hey, why don't you show us where your panel is? And we had augmented reality panels on their patio and things like this. But then I had one customer. He's actually here today talking to us, speaking in our booth.
Okay.
And he says, this is really fascinating because I can use that augmented reality and I can lay a ruler on the floor and size that panel to know whether it's going to fit.
Oh, wow.
In the spot that I need it to fit.
Yeah.
I can't come up with this. Our customers come up with these things. So we can only supply the technology, but our customers really take us places.
Well, and that's just the truth. Almost no matter who you talk to in the world of innovation, it's really about creating the platform for communication and innovation, and then let somebody else come up with, or at least take the next step in that use case and see how this company did it, and take the next step of innovation. And that is for folks that don't spend as much time thinking about this as I know you and I do, and I know a lot of our listeners do as well. That is really what is driving this exponential growth in innovation in the world of advanced manufacturing. I'll tell you a quick story. I was in Tokyo. This was just pre-COVID, and we were staying right near the center of Tokyo, and we had a meeting at a manufacturing operation that was about Tokyo traffic being what it is, about an hour and a half outside. And so I'm riding with a couple of automation engineers, and they are talking about automation technology and coming up with use cases for automation the same way that people in my generation, I'll say our generation, talked about their cars.
Right.
And in the same way, oh man, no way, you put that stereo in your car, look at those wheels, and these guys are like, oh, you wouldn't believe the sensor that I put on the way. I mean, and your technology is really creating that ability for collaboration, so that people that are just absolutely brilliant and thinking about how they can set up that application in their own manufacturing operation can deploy something really, really cool. Is that right?
It's an interesting time to be in this industry. The passion around fast forwarding to the future. People are tired of doing things the old way with all the manual and the error, and they want to get to the exciting things.
Right. So
when you can enable them and take that off their plate, and then they can get to the next thing, it's really appealing to them. And then their minds start going, well, okay, have you got this augmented reality thing? Can you do this? Can you do that?
Right.
And it's a lot of fun to talk to customers. That's why we put a lot of effort into the Rockwell Fair. I think it's highly valuable. It's about 30 years or so.
I know.
I mean, I just think it's, when it comes to events, everybody that's here is interested. And it's a great conversation every year.
It gets bigger and better every year.
Every year.
I think I've been here every year for, I don't know, maybe 8-10 years, something like that, and on and off before that. But since I got into the world of technical education, it's just such a great place to come and see. It's not on the scale of, like, I was here for Pack Expo a couple weeks ago.
I was as well.
Yeah, I mean, and literally I put 28,000 steps in just walking around Pack Expo. We were live streaming from IMTS for the whole week, and so same thing. I mean, the footprint of shows like that way bigger, but just the density of really amazing smart technologies that relates to advanced manufacturing here at Automation Fair is the thing that absolutely blows me away. Every booth you walk by, there's another digital twin, another smart sensor application, another software, another artificial intelligence predictive analytics platform. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. When we think about the applications for EPLAN, Jeff, I want to just ask you about what are some of the industries that you see, inside of the world of manufacturing that maybe are innovating at a really rapid rate using your platform, and do you do anything outside of the traditional world of now what's become advanced manufacturing with the EPLAN platform?
Yeah, there's several pieces. We're here showcasing together with our sister company, Rockwell, the manufacturing aspects of making a panel and how the data flows into manufacturing and automating that. And that's applicable to just about any industry, to be honest with you. If you look at the history of both of our companies, automotive was at the center of everything.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of where we started. We're a German-based company, you can imagine, right?
Yep.
So we're doing exceptionally well with electrical vehicle manufacturing.
Yeah.
They've been typically early adopters of new technology.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? But we're in building automation, maritime, process control. We can do P&ID loops. We even have a tool that does harnessing. And, at first it was like, how do you do that? Well, there's cables between cabinets.
Right.
There are also cables all over a given machine.
Sure.
So we've just enhanced that capability just with our latest launch of our Platform 2023 to really tie that capability in so you can know where that sensor is, how long that cord set needs to be.
Right.
So we continue to build that, and that's really, honestly, it's at the request of our customers.
Absolutely. Yeah, so many applications for these technologies. I was instrumental, or at least involved, with a technical college about 2 years ago in visioning out they wanted an IIoT technician type program. And the ideal was, and it's actually been very successful, but the whole thesis was, if you think about the continuum of smart devices to controls and really starting out with the base technology, right? So base technology to smart sensors and smart devices to a control system to a computer network or a data collector to the cloud, that kind of continuum, it repeats itself across almost every sector of the economy. And so it can be a retail environment that's tracking information at the point of use. It can be a hotel gathering information about the temperature in your hotel room. It could be, I was just talking to somebody this morning who had been at a huge trade show for carnival rides and for and those kind of things. And I spent time at a Six Flags this summer and just looking at those rides. And here you've got a PLC, you've got all kinds of fluid power, you've got all kinds of actuators, you've got sensors all over the thing. All the safety that goes along with it. So many different applications for these technologies, and that really repeats itself over and over and over again, which I think provides us with a glimpse into what the future of work is going to look like. And as people think about what are these careers that are available, it's not just, you don't have to necessarily select advanced manufacturing. You don't necessarily have to select software development. I mean, all these kind of things are going to converge together. So let's talk on that a little bit. As you see the future of software, as you see the future of integration with all of this fascinating manufacturing technology, what is the future of work going to look like? What do people need to know how to do? What are some of those really interesting career opportunities that you're thinking about?
Well, what's really exciting for me is a lot of the mundane, repetitive, error-prone tasks that we've typically had in this space are dropping by the wayside with all these new technologies. Just gathering the data, getting the data to the right people in the right place, and so what this means is, in the future, technology is going to be everywhere. Every job will have a technical aspect to it. And you're right. I mean, it kind of doesn't matter where you go.
Right.
So and we're working with a few educational institutions now in the U.S. and some others. Because we know the next generations, I mean, they grew up with a supercomputer in their pocket.
Right, exactly.
They're not going to do what we did for the last 35 years.
For sure.
And necessarily so. And so how do we prepare them for the future? And I think part of that is just them realizing that automation will be in particular part of everything. Like you said, carnival rides to everything we touch.
Right.
And at the center of it, and there's been a lot of discussion about this, is data.
Yep.
And really, that really makes the whole world go around. I think this is one of the big areas in the future, is the speed of gathering that, putting it in the right place, and being able to share it with the right audience. That's if we can just have the data we need when we need it, that's going to drive everything.
Absolutely.
Yep.
One of the statistics I've repeated already this morning on the Tech Ed podcast is this one that says that the amount of data we create in the next 3 years is going to be the same as the amount that we created in the last 30 years.
Yep.
I think the financial industry in 2021, 700 times more data than they created in the year 2020, just in a year, right? So we're swimming in a sea of data. And to your point, data is fine, but the third statistic I'll throw out there, most companies only use about 12% of the data that's available to them.
Yep.
So you think about that, 90% almost of the data that's available that could be driving continuous improvement, cycle time improvement, quality improvement, lead time reduction, on-time delivery is just going to waste. And so to your point, what are we going to do with that? How are we going to take that data, distill it, visualize it, and use it in a way that we can drive improvement in manufacturing and really across every sector of the economy? And I think that's going to be really, really exciting to watch as these careers continue to migrate. I used to get the question, are robots going to take all the jobs? I do a keynote speech about every other week on the topic of Industry 4.0 and advanced manufacturing. That was always the question we got, is what's going to happen with all the people? And it's like, well, first of all, nobody asks that question anymore because the problem isn't, too many people losing their jobs through automation. It's not automating fast enough to catch up with the lack of skilled workforce. But it really does create these absolutely incredible opportunities for young people as they think about the future of work and think about where they're going with their careers.
Yeah, what I would encourage every young person out there, certainly do it with my own kids. They're graduating from college now and moving on, but everyone I think has to be touching technology. It's the future.
Right.
And have some curiosity. What I would say is, don't just sit in the classroom. Get engaged. get out there.
Yep.
I mean, we've got customers looking and putting in programs to bring middle schoolers to their place of business.
Right.
And the old view of it was, well, I'm turning a screwdriver. No.
Right.
Those days are long gone.
Exactly.
You're using a computer and technology with every manufacturing job.
Exactly.
And once this customer told me, once I got the young people in, they understood, and now they want to work for us.
Right.
So we opened their minds to a whole new avenue of potential career development for them.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's
Seeing is
fantastic.
believing. Yeah, and changing that paradigm of what was manufacturing. And look, I ran some manufacturing companies that some of the jobs weren't the most glamorous job in the world. Spending your day racking a part on a metal finishing line, for an example, loading and unloading a 1200 degree burn off oven in a paint operation. I mean, that's not a glamorous job. We're automating a lot of that stuff.
Exactly.
And to your point, mundane jobs, maybe not particularly invigorating jobs, not particularly great paying jobs because there's not a lot of skill involved, and in some cases not necessarily the safest jobs. And we're taking those jobs, handing that off to automation to create these career pathways for young people that just blow your mind in terms of what the future of work is going to look like. As we think about the future and all the amazing things, Jeff, that you and I have seen as we're walking around Automation Fair, I want you to give some credit to some of the cool things that you've seen. I'm sure EPLAN is pretty close to the top of the list of the cool technologies that a lot of people are seeing here. But as you've spent time here, what are some of the biggest takeaways that you have and the most interesting technologies that are on offer here at Automation Fair?
Yeah, so when I look, I haven't been able to really canvass the show yet.
Right,
I've been
yeah,
in
me
meetings
neither.
all
I've been here,
morning.
right?
but just a quick look at everything, what you can see, and it doesn't matter what company you're looking at.
Yep.
It used to be very product focused.
Mm-hmm.
We're more solution focused than ever.
Interesting.
And that tells you a story in and of itself, because it really means that we're getting beyond the mundane, the repetitive.
Yep.
And it, from the lowest level component product all the way up to the most sophisticated solutions we have, everyone, and you look at this show, it's changed dramatically. I've been over here probably 25 plus of the 30 years it's been in existence. I've seen a dramatic shift in this, and it's accelerating right now. That's what I see.
Yeah.
And a lot of the Rockwell ecosystem that they're bringing to play is really having an influence on this whole sector in the U.S.
Absolutely. Well, it really changes the paradigm about how we go to market in manufacturing, because you're right. If you look 20, 30 years ago, it was about selling a variable frequency drive. It was about selling, the next gen PLC with how much I/O and how quickly we can process data and so on. And it really has shifted from here's a solution that you can use to help automate or improve process to how can we think kind of as an entire manufacturing ecosystem? How can we think more globally about how everything that happens in the supply chain affects each other, how we gather all that data, how we optimize performance? And to your point, with all this innovation that's taking place out on the edge and taking place by individual organizations using platforms like EPLAN, that is what is just tremendously accelerating advancement in the world of manufacturing.
If you look at what we show in our booth, and I love everybody to stop by, see what we're doing. A large part of building a control cabinet or a power control cabinet is the wiring.
Right.
Our studies show 60% of the cost of it is in the wiring.
Is that in the hardware itself or in the time that it takes?
In the time and labor.
Got it.
Cut, strip, terminate, label, to do it. We've got an example of how you can automate some of the fabrication of the wire with machines.
Yeah.
But then how do you use software to land those wires in the right spot every time perfectly?
Wow.
So you think about what's happening, the Great Resignation, the demographic shift that's happening, right? A lot of knowledge is exiting the industry.
Yep, exactly.
So to capture that knowledge data and then to make it using software solutions so clear that you don't need the expertise you had to apply in the past at the manufacturing level, because the software does a lot of that for you.
Absolutely.
It's all here. I mean, we're not the only place that can show that. And Rockwell, Rockwell's ecosystem and what they're doing with their partner program, bringing people like EPLAN together, I mean, it elevates the whole dialogue. And that's what I see going on with the Rockwell Fair this year.
Elevates the whole dialogue around the future of manufacturing technology and the future of work. As we think about that future, and I've got one final question in the time remaining, Jeff, is if I'm a high school sophomore, I'm a 15, 16-year-old kid thinking about the future, we're looking at all this amazing technology here at Automation Fair, and Jeff has one piece of advice for that high school sophomore. What is that advice?
I would say get involved outside of the classroom. Get your hands on it. You know, we're doing some great things between industry and education, and we're trying to forward that. And, you know, putting more lab material into the workplace.
Yep.
That's technology driven.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm pretty excited about that. But this is certainly myself, and I certainly saw it in my own children.
Sure.
We learn in context.
Mm-hmm.
And I
you.
think the industry is working together with education to add that context to the educational. And so, you know, reach out there. I started working as a very young person, as an early teen.
Right.
It's out there for you.
Absolutely.
We need you.
Yes.
Come.
Absolutely.
Let's do something together.
You're a 15 or 16-year-old young person. There is an awesome career for you available in the world of advanced manufacturing.
Absolutely.
Come and check it out. I think that is great advice.
Yep.
From the president and managing director of EPLAN USA, Jeff Kilburn. Jeff, that half hour went by like nothing. Great conversation.
Like nothing.
Thanks so much.
I certainly enjoyed it.